Even though this is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, it is easy to let the bustle and the stress overshadow the magic. But honestly, that can happen to the magic of our everyday lives too. It can pass us by because we don't take the moment to notice it right in front of us. We don't take the pause to hear what God wants us to hear or see what He wants us to see. In this episode, we talk about the power and magnification meditation can bring to our everyday. And if you listen to the end, my beautiful guest will lead a short meditation to invite some stillness into your day. So I'll give my plug now. If you have been touched by what you have heard on this podcast, please leave a review, a comment, click follow, or share with a friend. I'm just so glad you are here. Welcome to Measure of Her Creation. Welcome to another episode. I'm so excited to be sitting down with Jesika Harmon. She is the mother of 5 and a meditation coach and someone I deeply admire. So thank you for being here, Jesika.
My honor. I'm so grateful.
So the reason I was thinking about you when I was thinking about this episode is that I feel like this is a time of year that can feel very chaotic and stressful. And sometimes we can miss the magic of it all. But I think that this is also a type for the whole year. We can miss the magic of our family, the magic of motherhood. And so I wanted to pick your brain and hear about your journey with meditation, but also your journey with motherhood and what called you into being at home with your kids. So tell me a little bit about motherhood. What were some of the experiences that brought you to the mother you are today?
Well, the mother I hope to be is still far away, but I have made a lot of improvements over the years, so gratefully. What's interesting in that question is that it just took me back to when I was in college, high school, college, even growing up. I was never like one of those people who are just natural with children. I have a younger sister who children just love. I just used to joke more inside my head than to others, but I held babies, they cried. My sister held babies, they calmed down. We went to Africa together and she was in there with all the kids in the orphanage. And, you could see you knew the things they were struggling with. You could see how dirty, whatever. And she didn't even care. And I had to really work to get over okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to contract any of these sickness. I mean, the mothering skills were not natural to me. I mean, even animals, anyway, some of those natural inclinations that you feel like when you think of a mother, they just weren't natural to me. And I spent a lot of years telling myself that, actually. I remember when I was with my 3rd child, we were in the bathroom and I was helping him with something and just that mother's intuition, why does everyone else have it and I don't? And I learned through my mindfulness practices that because I was telling myself that, that's what my brain was looking for. It was looking to confirm the ways that I wasn't natural and I wasn't good at this and I just didn't quite know how to do that. But I've been so grateful that through the studies and the work that I've done with mindfulness and meditation that I have really been able to step into some of my God-given gifts that have... Sorry, I should warn anyone listening. I always cry when I talk about these things because I'm just so grateful and have been so blessed to see how there are a lot of things that I have been blessed with and a lot of things that I've been able to nurture as a mother, that through parenting and learning from my children, God has helped me water those seeds of divinity that are within all of us to become better at mothering. And I'm so grateful.
That's so comforting because I think a lot of us feel like it's not coming naturally. I too am one who I'm not naturally drawn to children necessarily, and now I'm thrown into motherhood. I'm new in my motherhood journey, and so it's comforting to hear that those seeds can grow as you're intentional about it. And even if it's not natural, it may become natural one day.
And I think trusting the process, I feel like I say often to people, I think God knew that parenting in whatever capacity, whether they're your own children or they're other children, but that is one of the quickest ways to become like our heavenly parents, because our children come with certain strengths and weaknesses, things that push our buttons, things that challenge us in ways that if we can learn how to overcome some of those challenges we have with our children rather than resisting, oh, she's just my hardest child. Oh, he's just this. Oh, it can actually teach us and help us become better as a parent, which is amazing.
So with it not having come super naturally, did it feel like you had any moments of, I don't know if I want to be here in the home? Like what drew you home when you could have been doing other things?
Yeah. I gratefully have been blessed with a husband who saw the value in the mother being in the home. My own mother was, and it was something that even though I pursued some career choices at different points in college and before I was married and thought, oh, this is what I'll do. In the back of my mind, I always saw the value of a mother being in the home and knew that there was plenty of time to pursue other things and wanted to be that homemaker. I've come to love the word homemaker because it's not just
Me too.
doing the laundry and making the food and whatever. It's creating a space and a feeling in the home that I just knew I couldn't be as intentional doing that. There are some others who can work and do that. But for me, during a certain time period while my children were young, I knew I needed to be full-time in the home. And even so much as God telling me I needed to homeschool my kids for a few years, I think he really wanted me to yes, you know who you are, you know what your purpose is, and you really need to nail it.
Oh my goodness, that's a huge calling. How did you come to that knowledge that you needed to homeschool? That's very intimidating. And maybe an extra level of being at home, being a homemaker.
No, totally. Totally. And it was not one I ever wanted or thought would be a part of my motherhood journey. But I loved when it, did come that was what I was supposed to do. I love looking back at different women God had placed in my life, the different places we lived. When we lived in North Carolina for a while, one of the first women I met was a woman who homeschooled her 3 daughters, and her daughters were amazing. They were some of the most impressive girls that my husband and I knew and just thought we want our kids to be like that. Or a homeschooling mom when we lived in Chicago who a son that we got to know that was helping, I think it was at the gym we went to, and I started talking to him just he's really impressive. And he was homeschooled, and just started learning a little about him. And I actually called his mom and just had this attraction to some of these women that happened to be homeschool mothers. And so when we were living in Arizona at the time, and I was on a run and had just had a few things come up with my oldest, who was, I think, 2nd grade at the time. She was a wonderful little girl, but she was very inclined to follow whatever her friends were doing. She was doing whatever they liked. She liked. Her friend put a poster, 2nd grade, a poster of Justin Bieber on his locker. So she put a poster of Justin Bieber. I'm like, who is this singer? Do you know? Nothing wrong with it, Justin Bieber, but there were just some things that were I want her to know who she is and think about things before she just follows what everyone else does. And it was just kind of the back of my mind. And as I was on this run, God very clearly just spoke. I had started the practice of not always listening to something while I was on a run and just thinking, okay, I think it would be good to have a little bit of space if God wants to tell me something. I had just talked to a girl that had gotten home from serving a mission in my ward at the time. And she said, had been home for a few weeks and she had her headphones on and she was listening to music. And she said, all of a sudden, God was like, take your headphones out. She was like, oh, I'm listening to good music. It was, Christian music or EFY or something. She took her headphones out and God was like, how can I talk to you if you always have something in your ears? And it just really resonated with me. This is way before my meditation days. And I just thought,
so
okay,
powerful.
I got to plan in some times where I'm not listening to stuff. And so that run was one of those times. And God just said, you need to homeschool your kids. And I literally stopped running Was that in my own head? Was that
Are you kidding
no
me?
me? No way. Like, I don't even know where to start with that. I never want, no way. But it was so, so powerful in my heart and in my head as I kept running, to where it just created this fire within me as I'm like sprinting down my street, like tears streaming down my face, like, okay, I know who I am. I know what my purpose is. Like, I will do this. I'll figure it out. It was so beautiful.
Such an interesting concept and very counterculture to take your earbuds out to create silence, where we're used to consumption, constant consumption, trying to get things done, but also multitask by listening to our podcast or our book or, our reels that we're scrolling through. And so tell me a little bit about that change that you started to make. How did that change your revelation process?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. And I think it's a blessing that we have so much at our fingertips to help us in our progression. I've learned some powerful things from podcasts and different sources that I'm able to listen to as I'm driving or as I'm cooking or as I'm doing the dishes, where our ancestors didn't have that. And they had so many more tasks than we did. It took a lot longer to do the laundry. It took a lot longer to make some chicken because they had to get it from the backyard and pluck it and, all the things they had to do.
Aren't you
to
grateful?
Make life run. Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking the other day, my sister and I have had some conversations about this, just in thinking that we've been blessed with so much more time, actually, as women than our ancestors, because the things that we have to do in our home take much less time, which means we have to be that much more intentional about what we're spending our time on. And sometimes it's perfect to be listening to something. And sometimes it's perfect to use that space to be and to be open to receiving. I actually just have been studying this book about meditation and the Bible.
Ooh, what's it called?
It's called Meditation and the Bible, actually.
Oh, I love
That's
it.
what the book is called. It's from a Jewish philosopher who talks about how meditation used to be a huge part of Jewish culture. If you think about the priests in the temple, and he starts going through prophets in the Bible. And what reminded me of this is that a lot of our thought leaders in the Bible that we love hearing from were shepherds, had professions where they were out in nature with a lot of space, with isolation from people, where they could isolate their mind and their brain to connect with divinity. And it's just made me think a lot about what space am I creating in my life that allows me to be in a place to receive, to kind of pare away the clutter, remove the static, and tune my heart and my mind to God, to divinity. And guess what? With what we have in our culture, I love how you brought up, thinking of the Christmas season, how sometimes we miss it in all the busyness. That's true our whole lives. Like you said, that there's so much, I don't know about you, but almost everyone I run into, friends, people, family, whatever. Oh, how are you doing? How's your week been? Oh, it's just so crazy. Oh, life's just so crazy
so
right now.
busy. Yeah.
But that's what everyone says. And I've made it a point, a goal almost, to not react with that, even though I do feel like life is really busy and it is really crazy sometimes, but focusing on the beauty and the stillness within all of it allows our brain to look for that, allows our brain to relish in that and enjoy that. And I think it's such a gift we can give ourselves, because if we don't, our minds, our lives, everything is full and busy every single moment.
It's a gift we can give ourselves and a gift we can give our children. And I want to jump into kind of how that works, some tips you might have if people are new to this, because I think it's kind of a buzzword like meditation or mindfulness. Ooh, and some people kind of avoid it. Like, that sounds weird, that sounds hard, uncomfortable. But first, I just want to ask, like, this doesn't seem part of the mainstream wider culture and society, but it also doesn't seem super prevalent in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like, I think it's a growing practice within our church. Do you feel like there's any contradiction with our doctrine, or is it found in our doctrine? And what have you learned about that?
Yeah, it's been so beautiful and so fascinating since I've been studying and practicing and teaching mindfulness and meditation, how much it is talked about by the brethren, by women leaders in the church, how much it's in the scriptures. David O. McKay, meditation is the language of the soul. He has an entire talk about meditation. And that's what, 1970s? President Hinckley has a quote where he said, if you could spend just 1 hour, I think he said you should spend an hour thinking about pondering on the atonement of Jesus Christ in your life. Just spend an hour. I think he said a week. I mean, it was like a regular occurrence. Or Joseph F. Smith, section 138. As I sat contemplating, pondering on the atonement of Jesus Christ and what it means in my life, my mind thought about, it was brought to my mind, scriptures about Peter in the scriptures, in the New Testament, did it? And then as I was pondering on this phrase, my mind was caught up and opened. And I mean, there's like all these phrases. There was a talk, a member of the 70, this was a few general conferences ago. He used the word meditate, ponder, think deeply about 13 times in one talk, where he talked about going to the Last Supper. And he imagined sitting there with the 12 apostles. And as Christ talked about the sacrament and he broke the bread, I mean, he literally was using meditation, talking all about just a meditative practice in that talk. It's all over, Michaela. And I think it receives a bad rap, or it's sometimes looked maybe poorly upon, because meditation is in a lot of these other circles that are out there that have taken people away from their faith. But when it's focused on Christ and when it's centered on connecting you with divinity, I think that is what our temple worship is meant to be. I think that's what our scripture study is meant, and our prayer is meant to be paired with. It's the listening part. It's the revelation part. In my opinion, it's in the scriptures where it says, and the treasures of the earth, the secrets will be made known to you.
If you are just still enough to connect and listen.
Yes. Yes.
I noticed that too in D&C 76, like this beautiful revelation around the kingdoms, the celestial, terrestrial kingdoms. And that's how it starts as well, is that he is meditating. It uses that word, and this is what is opened up to him. But how often do we sit and just be still to receive? We read our scriptures, we pray, we get up and go. We don't actually take the moment that God needs to communicate with us.
I just think that probably the two biggest barriers for people too are they have kind of this idea that meditation means I have to sit in absolute stillness for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes. Like it seems like it has to be this long thing. And everyone's telling themselves, oh, I just can't quiet my mind. Can't tell you how many people tell me like, oh, I just couldn't do that. Because there's kind of this misconception that it means you have to clear your mind of everything else, which really isn't possible. Meditation is just a focusing of the mind on something. And it takes some practice. And that practice happens in creating moments of space and letting your mind rest when you're on a walk or a hike without listening to anything, or you're doing the dishes without listening to anything. It's just practicing giving space in your mind and your heart to be open to receiving. So it's much simpler and can happen in a much shorter amount of time than people think.
And part of your day-to-day actions, it can just be a mindset, not a pause always.
Totally.
So how did you come to be a meditation coach? What led you there?
Yeah, it was, again, I feel like very divinely directed in the sense that this was right before COVID. My children were back in school. We had since moved to Utah after some years of homeschooling, probably my favorite years. It was the best, but felt really strongly like my children needed to be back with a teacher that wasn't mom, in a group of peers. They're not comparing themselves to their older brother or their older sister. There were just some different dynamics that it served its purpose, but it was time for them to be back in school. And my youngest was getting ready to start preschool just a few days a week. And I thought, I have a little bit of space. I had a note on my phone where I had been listing things that once my kids are back in school and I have a little bit more time, want to pursue this or that or that. So I'm, looking at my list and just feeling like, this space has opened up to do something else, and started going down some of those paths. And it was just kind of like, oh, this certification wasn't open till next year, or this one just didn't feel right, or that. There were just kind of some doors that were closing. And at the same time, I had a friend who had invited me to try a 40-day meditation challenge, and just felt like she could use some support. And I'd never done much with meditation. Sure, I'll do this with you. And really liked how I felt as I was doing it. I was, maybe a couple weeks in, and just felt like just having a little bit of stillness. I was doing it in my morning paired with my scriptures and prayer, was just really affecting me in very peaceful ways. I could just kind of feel it in myself. Well, at this same time, COVID hits and all my kids come home. And it wasn't like, oh, they're home and now we can homeschool. It was like they all have their computers and their assignments from their teachers. And it was chaos. I just remember sitting like, wait a second, homeschooling is way easier than trying to keep everyone connected and doing what they're supposed to be doing in their classes. I can see it in my mind right now, like just sitting at the table. I felt like a ping pong ball, just like going back and forth between all my kids, like trying to help with all these things. I was like, this is not going to work. But because I was doing some meditation each morning, it was like I had this sense of like being able to stop and just breathe in it. I could just feel it affecting me differently. So once we sorted some things out and we're moving into the summertime, and again, I'm thinking about what am I going to do this year? I started thinking about meditation. And like, I wonder if I could learn to help others learn how to meditate. Maybe I could record guided meditations. Like I just started Googling certification courses for meditation. And this Sura Flow Liberate like jumped off the screen at me. It was just like, you need to do this. You need to be mentored by this woman. I mean, she was just glowing on the screen. And I reached out to her, and she had a cohort starting that fall, and it started there. And it was a 6 months of training, intensive coursework, as well as working with pro bono clients, as well as personal private practice, where each week we had to up our meditation time by 10 minutes over the course of 6 months. And
oh my goodness, that's a lot.
My only option was to do it in the mornings before my kids were up, because I had a child in preschool, but that's a couple hours, a couple times a week, I didn't have time during the day. So sitting in my little closet for a long time, several mornings, changed me. It was amazing.
Wow.
It was amazing.
And maybe something you wouldn't have done without that challenge.
For sure.
That taught you a lot.
Yeah.
So as a meditation coach, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? How do you practice being a meditation coach?
So I work one-on-one with clients where someone comes to my home, or we'll meet virtually and guide them through some meditation, use the skills I used in my training of the active listening and the asking good questions, and, a whole plethora of skills that really can help a person go from, what's coming up for you today? What's on your heart? What are you struggling with right now? And sifting it down to really, and maybe you as a therapist probably see this too, like really what the root problem is. You think it's this, but actually it's this. And
Yes.
you're able to then use meditation and some of the tools of mindfulness, whether it be breath work or mantras and affirmations or visualization or gratitude, awareness, some of these tools that allow a person to then work through and move through whatever that challenge is and come out transformed. So maybe it's a challenge you're having with a child, but instead of focusing on complaining about, worrying about that challenge, it's adopting and practicing a skill that allows you to maybe wire a new neural pathway that allows you to think of that situation differently. Or maybe it's a gratitude practice that allows you to completely shift your perspective. A client that I worked with that had this old car that they really wanted to get a new car, but it just wasn't in the budget. And every time she drove that car, she just hated on that car, just complained in her mind as she's driving, and it creaks when you turn to the right, and just the different things that she would describe. And as we discussed, and we sat in meditation for a little bit. And one of the beauties of being a meditation coach is my job. I'm not a therapist. My job is not to tell you what you should do, to not, give you things that you should try. My job is to help guide you to your deeper knowing. Because I believe that the answers are within us, and that when we connect to our higher power source, which I believe is a God in heaven and the power of Jesus Christ, then we'll be guided to what we need. And the phrase that came to mind for her was, it's a miracle. It's a miracle that this car is still running. It's a miracle that I have a way to get my children to school every day. It's a miracle. Like she came up with a nickname for her car. Completely shifted. It sounds like the simplest, dumbest thing, but it was something that really weighed on her. She'd see other people in their new cars, and she was able to just have this sweet, she and her girls, as they were driving to school, she'd tell me weeks later, they would laugh and make up a little song to the sound that the car was making. Or they just had like these fun, cute little things that came about as she completely had this love for her car. And that's a super simple example, but it's just, we do it all the time. We do it with our children. We do it with ourselves. We spend so much energy focusing on negative things and things that are painful and things that are hard that it just makes it harder, rather than asking God to shed some light on, what am I not seeing about this situation? It's given me so much help in my mothering, when you think you know what this child needs, or you're doing everything you can and it's just not working. There's still contention. There's still, it's so hard. Just last night, even with my youngest, going to bed it takes so long. I'm like, why can you not just brush your teeth when I say brush your teeth? It just becomes this hard battle. And I just took the dog out. I was walking and was just like, okay, God, what do I need to know that can change this situation for me? And the thought, this is not going to last forever. How can you use this time to connect with your son? And if it's going to take an hour, it's going to take an hour. So use that time. And it's just, those little shifts in perspective can just change everything.
It changes your attitude. It also changes the culture of your family. I'm just thinking about that car scenario, them making up a song to the sounds of the car. That's a memory that those kids will continue to cherish, because they made it a meaningful moment rather than stressful or chaotic or painful.
Yeah. And it really is so beautiful to see, like I said, as I work one-on-one with clients, or I teach a couple of group courses, like group coaching online, and I teach in the classroom with high school students. Sometimes I lead a couple of women's groups once a week. So there's a way that I use it and teach it. But my favorite thing is just hearing from people how it works, and how it's almost like a light bulb goes on as they have an insight, which is just revelation. I think it's just God. It's just being still enough for God to teach you, for God to speak to you, and a way to use every challenge that you're faced with for your good. It's really beautiful.
How would you differentiate between meditation and mindfulness? Because I feel like I use mindfulness a lot in therapy to kind of bring the spread thin capacity, right? We spread our capacity thin through to the future, all of the future scenarios we think through, or all of the past scenarios we think through. But if we kind of consolidate our capacity here and now, that's where we can connect that
Yeah.
grounding in your senses. But how would you differentiate the two?
Yeah. My favorite, and a lot of people use them interchangeably. My favorite definition, and the way I like to think of it, because I think it really describes it the best, is that mindfulness is a practice for the present moment. It's a practice that brings you to the right here and right now, awareness of how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, mindful eating, mindful listening. It's some of those, it's the breath work, it's the awareness, it's the things that bring you to right now. Meditation is a practice for the past and the future. It allows you to maybe go back to a challenging situation, to maybe think about how it could have happened differently, what you would have said, what you would have done, giving some healing to some things that may have happened that you still haven't healed from. Or for the future, you have something coming up that you want to mentally prepare for. Athletes use it all the time. Or you're going into a crucial conversation, and how do I want to show up? How do I want to be? What thoughts do I want to have? So it can prepare you in a way that allows you to really, I believe, access the power of Jesus Christ to be who I want to be, or in the past, access the power of Jesus Christ to heal, to recover, to process. So for me, that's my favorite meditation and mindfulness definition.
I love that. So tell me, what would be some practical tips? Like if a listener has never practiced mindfulness or meditation and they're thinking, wow, this sounds really awesome. I'd love to incorporate this into my spiritual habits or my mothering or my, seeking revelation or connection to Jesus Christ. How would you go about that?
The first thing I would say is to just start getting comfortable with stillness. Don't discount that you're so busy and your brain is always going here and there and everywhere. That's true for every single person that's alive on the earth right now, probably, especially in the culture that we live in. That's just the nature of life and our pace. Get comfortable with some stillness. Maybe that means, like I've already referenced, going for a walk without your headphones in, doing something that you're already doing without listening to something, and just starting to be comfortable with the thoughts that come, the places your mind goes. That's actually a way and a time that your brain recovers. That we have two types of attention. We have focused attention, and we have the attention where our mind can just recover. And we think when we're scrolling, we're just relaxing and vegging. But actually, our mind is still working. And so unless we're sleeping, if we're always on our device or doing something, we're always in that focused attention. But open attention is when our brain and our body recover. It's when they heal. So stillness actually physiologically is so, so helpful. But it could be as simple as finding a peaceful song that you love and sitting in a chair for just the amount of time as that song, which is 2 or 3 minutes. I think anyone could carve out 2 or 3 minutes that you're just sitting there. It doesn't matter what thoughts come, doesn't matter what feelings come. There's no judgment. I'm just letting myself be right now, which just can teach our minds and our bodies how to be okay with stillness. So that's one of the first things I love to recommend. Whatever that looks like for you, just start to be comfortable with stillness. And the second thing I would recommend, especially where you and I think your listeners are believers, is inviting God in. Whether that be before my scripture study to say, what do you want me to learn today? I'm open to it. And see, maybe it's just a verse that you read. And maybe that leads you to a word that you look up. And then that leads you to start writing about what could that mean for me in my life? How could that help me right now? To just pause a minute rather than just, going through the motions. Oh, I'm reading what I said I was going to read, or I'm doing what I said. I'm going to say my prayers, and I'm just going to say all the things that I need right now and I want all now.
Check.
Right? But I think those things are intended to bring us to a place of stillness. So when we have the intention of letting God in, that looks different in my prayers, to where maybe at the beginning, one of my favorite things to do before I pray is to just sit there and just physically just okay, just brush off my body of the day, that whatever, and just okay, I'm here with you. To just take a little bit of time, or maybe it's at the end of my prayer to okay, here's the things I've just poured out my heart. Here's what I really need help with. Here's where I really would love for you to show up. And then to be still for a minute and see what thoughts come, see what feelings come. One of the most transformational prayers I've ever said was when someone recommended to me, ask God how he feels about you, and then sit and listen. You can feel it right now. He wants us to know. He wants us to know how much he loves us. So it's just adding that little bit of stillness before or after something maybe you're already doing in your religious practice. Maybe it's in the temple. There's so many moments in the temple where you could add that little bit of stillness.
I think we often get stuck in our left brains, our logical brains, even when we practice gratitude. It's oh, I can list all these things I'm logically grateful for, but it doesn't translate to our hearts or our spirits. But taking the moment, maybe even after you write them down, to just feel what it feels like in your body, to be grateful for your family, or grateful for the temple. Feeling where that, creates a sensation in your body changes the practice. It's adding that stillness in rather than getting stuck in the left logic brain.
Yeah. And I think it sounds harder than it is.
And that's why we resist it.
No, it's true. It's true. And I think it's so good to remember that our brains are built for survival. Our brains are built to help us focus on what's most important. If we could see with our spiritual eyes what's happening around us, we would be so overwhelmed. If we could see and took in even all of the things in the physical world around us, we would be completely overwhelmed. Our brains are meant to help us focus on the task at hand, on survival, on what we need. So when there's things that are happening in our life, our child is whiny because, maybe they're teething, or maybe something hard happened at school, or maybe, we're in survival mode. How can I get them to stop? I don't like this. Physiologically, there's kind of a reaction. But when we know how to focus on what's really important, when we know how to find that space and ask those questions that allows God to be within every moment of our day, then I can look at my child, because I've taken some time with God, for example, with my daughter that I call my golden girl, because she has taught me more about mothering and love and how to be like my Heavenly Mother than any of my other children. And it was so hard for so many years, because I was telling myself, she is my hardest child. Oh, if only she would be like this, or if only I went to her second grade parent-teacher conference and the teacher's oh, that's your daughter? Oh, she is the golden girl of the classroom. She is so obedient. She's always on task. She's so this, she's so that. And I just remember sitting there, and I said to the teacher 3 times, oh, I am so glad she's like that for you. She is my hardest child at home. 3 times I said that to the teacher. I walked out of the classroom, and it was like a ton of bricks. God was like, you are doing this to yourself. Because you are choosing to look at her in that way, that's what your brain is seeing, all of the hard things. And I went home and wrote in my journal that night, okay, what do I need to see about her that I'm not seeing, that will help with my relationship with her, that will help with how I'm trying to parent her? And felt impressed to every night write down, the idea came, there's the revelation piece, there's the sitting in stillness piece. The idea came, write down every night one way how she's been your golden girl that day. Just one thing. First night, oh, she was so helpful with her little brother today. Wow. Next night, she was so grateful about dinner tonight. Next night, I mean, just very little things. Michaela, it wasn't but a week in where I just sat there in tears one night, like, she is amazing. Like, she is such a wonderful girl. But because I'd been focusing so much on those things that were hard, that's where our brains are built to help us survive and just get through to the next thing. But I think that's where President Nelson's Think Celestial. I think that's where so much of what we receive from so many of our leaders is trying to help us see with spiritual eyes and slow down for long enough that we can be open to those ideas that will come. God knows our children perfectly. He knows them so much better than we do. And if we can just take the time to turn to Him and say, what am I not seeing? There've been so many nights and mornings on my knees in my closet with a specific child in my mind, asking that question, what am I not seeing, God? What do I need to know about her? My other daughter, 16, feeling like we're always just butting heads. Like, there's so many things she could be doing better. Like, I'm just trying to help remind her. And I'm just, but it was like a phrase that I teach in our group coaching course about mantras and affirmations, that what you water grows. If it's a negative thought that you just keep watering, that is what is going to keep coming to mind. But if I can plant a different seed, pull out that weed, plant a seed and water that is what I'm going to find. That is what I'm going to focus on. And the thought came with her, like, what you water grows, water the flowers. Like, what if you just focused on the good things she was doing? So I tried that. Next day, made it a goal. I am only going to comment on the good things she's doing. Oh, my goodness, you made it to breakfast on time. High five. Like, oh my goodness, you're already doing your homework. I didn't even have to remind you. Thank you so much. Oh, wow. Again, it wasn't but a few days where I was like, she's amazing.
Yeah, and that changes you and it changes your relationship. It changes how she feels in your presence. I love that.
The ways that, it's like that book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 20. Like, I stand at the door and knock. Like, He is always there ready to help us. You just have to let Him in.
Another visual I love to use with clients is with a small cup of water that's filled to the brim with our stressor. We just are filled to the brim. We don't have any space for anything else. But if we pour that cup into a larger vase, it doesn't take our stress away. It doesn't change the problem, but we have more space to let in the Spirit, to connect to our calm, to our power, to our strength. So maybe your daughter still has some of those habits that rub you the wrong way, but you have space to also acknowledge the good in her and also acknowledge the Spirit that is trying to speak to you, but you can't hear if your glass is full.
Yeah. And one of my favorite reasons to practice breath work or intentional breathing, even if it's just some deep breaths, is similar analogy, thinking of my body as that glass of water. And if I am full with so many negative feelings and stress and worry and all that, then there's no space for anything else. So sometimes I just need to let it go for a minute. If I can just stand there, I can't tell you how many times I'll just go around the corner or into my bathroom and just breathe for a minute. Like, all right, just process some of these emotions for a minute. It's going to be okay. It's going to work out. This isn't going to last forever. And just take some deep breaths so that can settle a little bit. Just like if you have a jar with sand in it, or, if you leave it for a minute, it settles to the bottom. And then there's space for the love and the light that I want to be filled with for my mothering in that moment.
That's so beautiful. Any other tips that you would give someone who's beginning meditation or mindfulness, specifically in this Christmas season where maybe the chaos of getting presents and decorating and running to activity after activity is kind of getting in the way of the magic?
Another tip I would give is to remember that whatever follows An I am statement is what you're inviting into your life. So if you're saying, I am so tired, I am so busy, I am so overwhelmed, like if that's what you're saying to yourself, that's likely what you're going to feel and what you're going to experience. So choosing, which I am is an affirmation that actually is a statement that when you say to yourself can help you replace the maybe more harmful things you might be saying to yourself. So one that I use all the time is I am peace. I am love. I am whatever it is you want to feel. That's like watering that seed. That's like developing that within you. And I love that one of the names of Christ is I am. That it's like calling on his power to help. If I don't feel very patient or I don't feel very loving, by saying, I am love. I am patience. It's like, okay, I know I'm not by myself. I know I need your help. And so call down that. I mean, I feel like that's what we're taught. Call down the powers of heaven. That's one of the things. And I love, if it's okay, this quote from President Nelson and his A Plea to My Sisters. And I think this came right before my journey with meditation and mindfulness and resonated so much, where he quotes President Kimball, how much of the major growth that's coming to the church in the last days will come because many of the good women of the world will be drawn to the church in large numbers. This will happen to the degree that the women of the church reflect righteousness and articulateness in their lives and are seen distinct and different in happy ways from the women of the world. And then he just goes through all of these ways that we're different. And one of the things he said is we need women who are devoted to shepherding God's children along the covenant path, women who know how to receive personal revelation, who understand the power and peace of the temple endowment, women who know how to call upon the powers of heaven to protect and strengthen children and families. Like he just goes through all of these amazing things that is like, do we know how to do that? And I have just felt so strongly that those affirmations are one of the ways that we can call down what we need when we need it. So such a beautiful thing to remember in a busy Christmas season or the everyday life, that if I'm saying to myself, and I use it often when my children are fighting, because I've learned the hard way that when I insert myself, it doesn't help at all. It just makes more contention all around. So again, sitting in my meditation one morning, like picturing my boys that were having such a hard time, just like, what can I do? What can I do in this situation? And that's what God sent. I am peace. Like if you in yourself in that moment can say, I am peace, Michaela, it completely changes how I feel. Sometimes I'll start to chuckle like, oh, you guys are so lucky to have each other. Like, I'll just, leave that. Like it just completely changes my choices, how I feel. Like, so those I am statements can be game changers.
And I want to remind people that this is not a practice that you necessarily perfect. Like it's a constant practice of bringing yourself back to the present, bringing yourself back to that connection with God, because we naturally wander. That's just how we are as humans, as mortals. So it's not like practicing mindfulness or meditation will suddenly make you a perfect mother or make you feel this perfect magic, but it's taking those intentional steps to become who you want to become, but also to invite the power of Christ to help you become who you want to become.
And it's, I think, why in the scriptures so often we read, by small and simple things shall great things come to pass. Like it's that compound effect. Meditation and mindfulness is 1000% that. Yeah, like just when you think like, is this even helping? All of a sudden your life has changed. Like a little bit can go so far. And before you'll know it, you'll look back and be like, I have improved so much in that just by doing this small thing.
So as you have been a meditation coach and practiced meditation for yourself, how has that taught you about Jesus Christ?
I think first it's opened me up to learning how to become like him. I just actually made this connection last week when I was teaching a class about Christ-like attributes, that as I was talking with the youth, who's someone you look up to? Who's someone you admire? And, they started telling me who and so, and this is why and whatever. So interesting to think about when there's someone that you want to be like, maybe it's an athlete and you really want to be a basketball player like him. And so you learn all of the things he does. You practice as much as he does. You do, all of the things that this person does, you start to do. But no matter how much you become like that person here in the world, you will never get to know them better. No matter how much I want to be like Michael Jordan, I'm never going to get to know him better. He's not even going to know who I am, no matter how much I am like him. But with the Savior, when we become more like him, we come to know him better. Like that's the only person that works with. Because as we start to develop those Christ-like attributes, we learn more how to utilize his power. We invite him into our life more. We start to relate to him as we're reading the scriptures. I just was so excited to make that connection because I think it's just helped me come to know him so much better and just be that much more grateful for who he is and what he's done for me, that has additionally helped me come to know the Spirit better. Like I had the realization last year that the Holy Ghost is probably one of my closest friends. Like I love him so much. I'm so grateful. Like when you have experiences with divinity, just like when you have experiences with people in your life, you become closer. And it's such a blessing.
So beautiful. And that made me think about how God is described as omnipresent. It's interesting to think about a God who is all present. He knows the future, he knows the past, and yet he is all here too. And as you get to know him, I think that's a really powerful attribute to try and be like and to invite into your life. Tell me how people might be able to find you if they want to connect to you or hear your meditations. Where can people find you?
So I record guided meditations for the app Insight Timer. That's a beautiful, free, easy resource for anyone that's just getting started or wanting to do any type of meditation. You can, in the search bar, type in 5-minute anxiety meditation or breath work or whatever it is you want to do a meditation around. Insight Timer is amazing. So I'm building my library on there. Instagram, Jesika Harmon. I like to post tips and share things around mindfulness and meditation. YouTube at Jesika Harmon, building collection of guided meditations on there, and just came out with the first guided meditation album on Spotify and Apple Music. A whole other story, but created with a beautiful, incredible pianist named Elizabeth Borowski. And the meditations were written around her experience with breast cancer. It's a beautiful resource for anyone going through something physically challenging, in hopes to bring some peace and stillness. So any of those places.
Thank you. And Jesika is Jesika. So it's a different spelling.
That's right. There's a lot of Jessicas in the world. Yeah. Jesika. Jesika Harmon. Yeah.
And I'll link some of those in the description so people can find you.
Great. Thanks.
So I know that some listeners might be listening on double speed right now. I know I'm a double speed podcast girl.
Great, we have that option.
I know. I honestly think I sound better on double speed. But if you are on double speed, I would invite you to come back to one-time speed. And Jesika is going to do a little meditation for us as we close this podcast, just to breathe for a moment and take some time for stillness. So thank you, Jesika, for being here on this show. I am just so grateful for all of your insights.
So I'm so grateful for you and your wisdom and your light and sharing it with everyone who listens. It's a true gift to the world. So thank you. And I'll say to anyone, if you're listening to this while driving, it's okay. You can still drive and have your eyes open, and still, this is just focusing your mind and relaxing your body a little bit. We'll make it super short so you can see how just a few moments of stillness can still be of benefit. If you're in a place where you can close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes. If not, you're okay to keep your eyes open, but just invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and then gently exhale with an open mouth, just gently. Maybe try a couple more inhaling through your nose, exhaling with an open mouth. This is just giving your body permission to relax for a minute. Maybe check in with a couple places in your body where we naturally hold some tension. Bringing your awareness to your shoulders, and if you want to lift them up, and then with your exhale, let them relax. Bringing your awareness to your jaw, just noticing if you're clenching your teeth or holding any tension there. Noticing your forehead. Noticing your hips. Again, just giving your body permission to relax. And then invite you to bring your awareness or your focus to your heart. And then on your next inhale, see if you can imagine that from your heart, a line is drawn up to your mind. Just connecting your heart and mind. On your next inhale, see if you can imagine that point from your heart to your mind, extending all the way up to heaven. As you breathe in, imagining that connection that moves up. And as you exhale, just imagine that connection moving down into your heart. And then if you'd like, invite you to open your heart to what God wants you to know or feel right now. If you feel like there's too much going on in your mind, that's okay. Just bring your focus back to your breath and ask the question, what do you want me to know or feel right now? Then if you'd like, you can place one or two hands on your chest, on your heart space. Taking a deep breath in, giving gratitude for taking a moment in stillness today. Then whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Remembering that whatever came in that space, that if you are just open to no expectations, maybe nothing came. Maybe you felt like you just sat there breathing. You're just tuning your mind to be able to hear him. And it will come when you're ready.